All right, this is a video for chapter 20 of Groundwork for a Better Vocabulary. If you want to follow along in the book, it's on page 148. So let's take a look at these words and read them and try to guess at their part of speech. So our first one is disregard. Disregard, excerpt, exclude, hinder, misleading, monotonous, obtain, pray, seize, severe. There's really no clue with any of those words as to the parts of speech. All right, let's look at the first one, disregard. This one's a verb. I suggested that Patty put some of her money in a savings account, but she disregarded my idea and spent it all. The drive with Bruno was frightening. Even though the road was icy, he disregarded the speed limit and drove 70 miles an hour. So disregard means to ignore. It really means to pay no attention to something. Oftentimes, the thing that you're not paying attention to is some sort of suggestion or some sort of rule that is out there. So if we look at the first example, right, she's disregarding advice, meaning that she's not paying any attention to. So even if you say something, right, you completely ignore it. Don't pay attention to it. Don't follow the advice. In the second example, right, they're disregarding the speed limit. He's not paying attention to the rules, just ignoring the rules. So on page 149, disregard is number 3, and it says to pay no attention to. All right, our next one here is excerpt, and this one is a noun. The New York Times printed all of the president's speech, but most newspapers printed only brief excerpts from it. Previews advertise films by showing several excerpts, short scenes that will make people want to come and see the whole movie. So an excerpt means a part, but it's got to be more specific than that. An excerpt is a short part from a film, a TV show, a piece of music, or a piece of writing. So an excerpt is used to we wouldn't say it's an excerpt of a car. We could say it's a part of a car, right? Like a tire is part of a car, but we're not. An excerpt really has to do with something like a film or a TV show, a piece of music or a piece of writing. It's talking about something that that has a beginning and an end. So an excerpt is just part of that story. On page 149, it's number 2. A part of a whole work, such as a book, a speech, or a film. Okay, so it's a part of something, but it's a part of some sort of story or some sort of thing that has a beginning and an end. So our next word here is exclude, and exclude is a verb. When you preserve pickles, you must be sure to exclude air from the jars, otherwise the pickles will spoil. The little boy came crying to his mother after other children excluded him from their game. So exclude means to keep out. One thing to keep in mind here is exclude is often followed with from. And when it's followed with from, the thing that follows from is the thing that you're kept out of. So in the first example, it's saying exclude air from the jars. So air can't go into the jars. In the second one, excluded him from their game means that he couldn't go into their game. So exclude means to deny someone or something access to, or keep someone out of, it can be out of a place, a group, or a privilege. So for example, one of the things that's going on right now is that Donald Trump wants to exclude Muslims from coming into the country, meaning that he's denying them a right or a responsibility. in the past, both in the United States, both black people or any people of color, meaning non-white people, were excluded from voting. They weren't allowed. They weren't allowed to vote. Um, th- Certainly, blacks and women were often excluded from certain clubs. So, like, there would be maybe not so much women, but maybe there would be a golf club, and the membership, you couldn't be a member if you were black. Um, so exclude means that you're not allowed to be a part of something, to do something, or go into some group. So exclude is number 4, to refuse to allow in, to not include. So our next word here is hinder, and hinder is a verb. Not having computer skills hindered Jane in her search for an office job. Bad weather hindered the climbers on their hike up the mountain. So hinder means to get in the way of. Um, it means to create difficulties for someone or something, resulting in a delay or an obstruction. Okay? So hinder is related to the word obstacle. It's also related in a way to the word overcome. So we said overcome means is that you're facing some difficulty that you have to defeat in order to reach whatever your goal is. So hinder is talking about what that difficulty is. But hinder means is that it's something that gets in your way, that slows you down from achieving the thing that you want to get. Hinder doesn't necessarily mean that it completely stops you, but it makes it more difficult, and it makes it take you more time. Oftentimes, hinder doesn't mean that it's going to take you a lot of extra time, but it does mean that it slows you down. So in the first example, right, not having the computer skills, because she wasn't good with computers, it made it harder for her. It slowed down her search for the office job. In the second one, the bad weather made it take longer. It got in the way of their ability to get up the mountain. Hinder is number 10. To stop or slow down someone or something, block or interfere. I would tend to say that hinder doesn't. Well, actually, I'm looking in 2 places where it says you can say to hinder is to stop. But in my estimation, hinder really has more of a meaning of it is that it makes something difficult for you, but it may not. We're not going to say that it completely prevents you from doing it. So our next word here is misleading, and misleading is an adjective. The fact that the 2 close friends happen to have the same last name is misleading. Many people think that they are really sisters. My cousin may appear rich, but his fancy car and nice clothes are misleading. In reality, he owes thousands of dollars on his credit card. Misleading means giving the wrong idea. Okay? So it really means is that it's giving. When we say giving the wrong idea, it means that it's confusing, right? In that it makes you think one thing, but the truth is actually somewhat different. If we break down the word misleading, is like the same prefix as in mistake, which means incorrect. Leading, to lead someone means to take someone in a certain direction. So mislead means you're taking someone in the wrong direction. So misleading is number 6 on page 149, leading to a mistake in thought or action. So in the first example, right, these 2 women have the same last name. So this makes you think, oh, they're sisters, but that's not the right that's not the right idea. That's not a fact, right? In the second one, this guy, he looks like he's rich because he has all these expensive things, but he can't even really afford those things. He owes a lot of money for them. Okay, so misleading really means that that something is confusing or deceptive, meaning that it's giving you the wrong impression or the wrong idea about something. So our next one here is monotonous, and this one's also an adjective. The child in the supermarket kept repeating a monotonous request. I want some candy. I want some candy. I want some candy. My days had become monotonous. I got up, went to school, came home, slept, and then did it all over again. So monotonous means dull, or it could also mean boring. It can also mean uninteresting. But really, the important thing about it is that it's repetitive, right? Repetitive means it's repeating itself, that it's lacking in variety and interest. So if we actually take the word apart, monotonous, it has a couple of different parts. Mono means one. Mono means one. And tonus comes from the word tone, which is related to sound. So monotonous means it's like one sound. So it's like the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again. So in the first example, right, the kid is monotonous. He's saying the same thing. I want candy. I want candy. I want candy, repeating it again and again. In the second one, if you're saying your life is monotonous, it's the same thing is happening. The same thing is happening. Every day sounds the same. Every day is exactly the same. And because it's repetitive, it's boring. Okay? So be careful about that. Boring, right? Something can be boring but not be monotonous, right? It can be boring because it's not interesting. But monotonous means it's boring because it's repetitive, because you're repeating it over and over and over and over and over and over again. Okay? So our next one here is obtain, and obtain is a verb. After completing the driver's education class, Reiko obtained a driver's license. The soldier obtained a 3-day pass in order to attend his sister's wedding. So obtain means get something. Okay? It means to get or acquire something. Normally it means to get something through some sort of work or some sort of procedure. So and oftentimes it's some sort of formal procedure. So in the first example, you obtain your driver's license. It's not like you just go to the DMV and you say, "Hey, my name's Reiko," and they give you it. You have to do something. In order to obtain something, you're required to do something. In the second example, in order for the soldier to leave, he can't just say, "Hey, I'm going to leave." He has to fill out some paperwork, and you have to do that. So one of the things that some of you guys may or may not obtain is a green card, right? So to get a green card, you can't just be like, "Hey, give me a green card." There's certain steps that you have to take in order to do it. So on page 149, obtain is number 5. It says to get something through planning or effort, right? It's not something that you can just get without work. It's something that you have to plan for and you have to put effort for. Our next word here is pray, and this is a noun. Now, don't get this confused with the word pray, which sounds the same. That's a verb. They're actually spelled differently. That pray, where you're praying to God, please let me get a good score on this quiz, is with an A, and it has a completely different meaning. And although they sound the same, the meaning is completely unrelated. So because a cat's prey includes mice, farmers like to keep cats in their barns. Movie stars are the prey of thoughtless photographers who will do anything to get a photo. And so a prey is those that are hunted. Prey is often used for animals. It means, an animal that's hunted and killed by another animal for food. So in the first example, that's what we're talking about, right? Is that the mice are the prey of the cat, meaning that the cat kills the mice and eats it. Although I don't think I think cats just like killing mice. They don't eat them. But if we were thinking about in the wild, right, a zebra would be a prey of a lion, right? The lion attacks it and kills it and eats it. But prey can also not just mean animals. In the second example, right? The prey is the target, the what some people are looking for. So photographers, their job is these, we call them paparazzi. Their jobs is to take photographs of famous people. So in that case, we're saying that the movie stars are the prey. So even though they're not hunted and killed, hopefully, although that did end up happening to Princess Diana, unfortunately. Um, uh, but the prey is the people that are hunted. So on page 149, it's number 1, a creature or creatures that are hunted by another animal, the victim or victims of an attack. Specifically, an attack where someone is hunted. So our next word is seize, and this is a verb. The woman screamed when a thief seized her pocketbook. Before anyone could stop him, the baby seized the cat's tail and pulled. So seize means to grab, but it means to grab means to I can't think of another word. To grab, to snatch, to take hold of. To grab means to take hold of something. But seize has an additional meaning of it's to take hold of subtly and with force. So to seize means that you're doing this thing quickly without warning, and you're doing it with force. So in the first example, right, the thief seized her pocketbook means that he or she quickly grabbed the pocketbook or the purse and pulled it with force. In the second example, you were seeing the baby, right? The baby like quickly grabs the cat's tail and pulls it with force. So it has this two-part meaning of being suddenly and also with force. On page 149, it's number 9, to take hold of suddenly or with force. I would say both of those things, with suddenly and with force. So our last word here is severe, and this one is an adjective. A severe storm hit our area, causing great damage and several deaths. Patients with the most severe illnesses are kept in a separate part of the hospital where they receive special care. So severe means dangerous. I would say that in addition to that, it means of something. When we talk about severe, we're talking about something that is bad or undesirable, meaning that either it's harmful or dangerous, or you don't want to have it, and that it's of a very great magnitude. It's very intense. In this case, it's very serious, or it's very bad, or it's terrible, or it's awful. So in the first example, we say a severe storm, right? When we say that the storm is severe, right, sometimes we want rain. Okay, in that case, we wouldn't say it's severe. When we say that something is severe, we are saying that it's bad, right? That whatever it's doing is not something that we want it to be doing. So a severe storm, right, caused a lot of damage, so it's not something that we wanted. In the second one, we're saying a severe illness. So this is a sickness. Most of us don't want sicknesses, right? But we say it's severe, meaning that it's really, really bad, that it's really dangerous, and that it's very harmful. On page 149, severe is number 8. It says causing great physical or mental suffering, something that is very serious. Okay? All right, so go ahead and do the online activities and do the questions, and we'll review those in class. Take care. Bye.